Greetings. Now that you've connected, I shall tell you the circumstances of this simulation. Be prepared. You are now Satoru Gojo, also known as the strongest modern sorcerer. I come to you with a situation, and I want to know how you'll respond. You, Satoru Gojo, have just survived Malevolent Shrine, and seemingly shut down the technique. So now, you have options, as the King of Curses is laid in the rubble of his own creation. So please, let me know. What are you going to do? Thank you to our $5 patrons, Red Bull 4765, Midnight Gem Lord, and Sean. Another thank you to our $3 members, Wakana Plays, and Red Bull 4765. And a very big thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha and iDemoKami. And a very big thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. Before we hop into this breakdown/discussion on what Gojo's next move should be in the big battle against the King of Curses himself, please leave your own thoughts on what Gojo should do in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also hit that little notification bell to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. Each over as low as $1 a month, get the links to videos, early content, and more. Also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up guys, Pencil here, and yes, my main question is, now, what is Gojo going to do? Because he's got the King of Curses laid up in Malevolent Shrine like it's the finest of 5-star hotels, and obviously, I don't know about y'all, but I think it's time to capitalize. I think it's time we start to cash in on these stocks, Gojo. So what are we really going to do? Because we got a couple different options that rely on a couple different interpretations. Number one, maybe Malevolent Shrine isn't actually done. I think it is. Gojo seemingly has stopped healing. Or, well, no, he finished up healing after blasting Sukuna dead in the face. And also, like, you know, the shrine is destroyed, so you would assume that Malevolent Shrine, considering it is a real-world thing, once it gets destroyed, since it's the center of the domain is shut down, and thusly Sukuna is shut down. This is pretty inarguably the most vulnerable we've seen Sukuna ever. Like, ever. If we go with the idea that he has lost the shrine, and now his technique is shut down. There is counter-evidence to this, and we'll cover that really quickly. Remember, after he used Malevolent Shrine in Shibuya, he had like no cooldown. Like I swear it was like 0 seconds. I literally went and reread chapter 119. And remember, he was fighting Maharaga in that fight. And thusly, he literally says like, oh, the only way to beat it is to hit it with something new before it adapts again. And he pulls out the flame arrow after saying open right after his domain seemingly finishes. The only like half-sensical counter-argument I've seen to this so far by my friends was like, oh, well, maybe he just didn't actually close Shrine at that point, and he only closed it after Yuji, well, took back the body. And you can kind of argue that based on the fact that Haruta, or not Haruta, what's this guy's name? Yeah, it is Haruta. Haruta Shigemo's curse technique stores miracles. You get that whole explanation. And then when he walks into the flattened area, he immediately gets sliced apart. So, maybe? Or you just argue Sukuna slashed him there, and Sukuna had shut down Shrine, which I do think is the case. I mean, notably, we don't see him verbatim close it. We see everything collapsing around him, but I don't know. I think Sukuna had nigh on instantaneous recovery, which is why, certain things may or may not be on the table for Gojo Satoru, or you in this scenario. So the initial thing I was wondering, and you can even go back to the review and hear me say it, just immediately open domain on his forehead. Like straight up drop it. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but we gotta remember who we're dealing with here. This is Satoru Gojo, aka opening domain is probably like breathing to him. Even after spamming a whole bunch of RCT and regular CE and all of that. He can drop multiple domains a day. The 6 eyes are that efficient, and at least based on how Gojo's grinning and cheesing at the end of the chapter, I don't think he's actually anywhere near low. And with his curse technique back, there's no reason to not open domain again. If we go with the idea that Sukuna doesn't have instant RCT recovery. Because if we go with, or not RCT, well, I guess it would be RCT recovery. Like, maybe hypothetically you can argue in 119, the reason Sukuna was able to switch off from, well, not necessarily switch off, because we don't know whether or not the flame arrow is actually part of Shrine or not, but the reason he was able to switch off hypothetically could be because he still had the domain open, and now he doesn't. But regardless, assuming Sukuna is still liable to the rules that the rest of the verse is, and that he can't just instantly RCT heal his technique back and counter open shrine, which, who knows, maybe Gojo could be worried about, opening domain would be the easiest option here. Why? Mainly because of a more complicated thing we'll talk about in a little bit when it relates to Hollow Purple, but the main thing that Sukuna gets when he gets hit with Infinite Void is an L. Like, he should immediately lose. And here's why. So, we know that Sukuna should technically have a counter to domains outside of his own domain. If there's anyone who knows Hollow Wicker Basket, it would be Sukuna. Like, if a character like Reggie Star, his name is a whole pun, Reggie Star, if he, of all individuals on this good green earth, happens to have Hollow Wicker Basket, and Kashima has Hollow Wicker Basket, and a whole bunch of ancient sorcerers had Hollow Wicker Basket, then obviously Sukuna is gonna have Hollow Wicker Basket, right? Neat, fine, whatever. But we know there's a certain property about Gojo's domain that makes it a bit dangerous, and kind of makes it so that Hollow Wicker Basket, or even Simple Domain, isn't actually like a safe thing you can do to counteract it. It's the thing that when Gojo opens his domain, it's not like he opens the barrier and then he closes it and then the technique comes out. No, the reason the 0.2 second domain was so crazy is because as the barrier was forming, the technique was already imbued and the sure hit was already activated. And need I remind you, Sukuna is not standing at the ready, immediately ready to hop into the Hollow Wicker Basket position, whatever that would be. No, bro is, as I quote, laid out like he's flayed out. Like, bro was deep in his shrine with half his face missing from a red straight to the jaw. So obviously he's not in the most prime of positions to respond appropriately with Hollow Wicker Basket, and I think Hollow Wicker Basket just wouldn't even work because the domain should be fast enough depending on when Gojo activates it. Reasonably, he literally ends the chapter by saying, "Whew, that wasn't easy. I'm wrong." He says, "Whew, this wasn't easy." So, like, he's in the most prime position. He has the left hand on his shoulder, but I do think that he casts, doesn't he cast Infinite Void with the right? Let me double check real quick. I think he casts Infinite Void with the right hand. He does. So, admittedly, the number one priority, if I'm Gojo Satoru in this scenario, while Sukuna's laid out and cheesing like a madman, I'm immediately reopening Infinite Void. And that's mainly because that's the auto win. That is the G-Jizzle. Mainly because if we go with the idea that Sukuna isn't like a real deity and can just ignore rules of the verse, he should not have his technique right now. Right? He shouldn't have his technique. And if he doesn't have his technique, then we should be good. He couldn't be able to open a counter shrine, especially while he's laid out like that. Notably, both of his arms are still intact, so it'd be good if Gojo opened domain earlier after he took off one of Sukuna's arms, but he didn't. So right now, Sukuna's in a very prone position, presumably without his technique. And thus, Infinite Void would be an auto win that could actually work out in more ways than one. Notably, we don't know how fast Sukuna can process information, like, at all. Who knows? But considering the average individual was able to recover after about 3 or 4 months of treatment from, Infinite Void, then the King of Curses, maybe if you give him some time, maybe if you, instead of 0.2 seconds, maybe like 2 minutes of Infinite Void, and I think you get like the best case scenario. Because the big issue with opening domain against a lot of other people, in terms of like other characters having domains, the biggest issue is that they usually just take your life. Like, Jogo's domain does not leave your body intact, it burns you to a crisp. Horizon of the Captivating Skanda literally eats you, limb from limb. Kenjaku's domain, it will turn you into a, for lack of a better term, paste on the wall. Who knows what Ryu, Uro, or Yudo's domains do, but I highly doubt they're tranquil. So, all of those domains absolutely annihilate the flesh, the body, all that. But remember, we're fighting Maguna, not Sukuna. In fact, Megami's still, or Sukuna is still wearing Megami's face. So, there's not even much extra to do here. And we know Infinite Void doesn't, technically, it's not a sure hit, sure execute domain like a lot of others are. It's more like a sure hit, sure paralyze, sure hit, sure incapacitate. Like, that's it, when you really think about it. Because it doesn't actually, like, harm you in terms of a majority of your body. It just fries your brain. And sure, frying a brain isn't the best thing to do, but hey, we got two, if not the two, best RCT users in the verse. And sure, for some reason or another, they can't grow back an arm, but they should be able to grow back a brain, or at least help it out a little bit. And if you just incapacitate Sukuna here by using Infinite Void before he can recover his curse technique, then, well, battle is won. And you could now use Sukuna's body and try to figure out a way to get him up out of there in order to get Megami back. Hypothetically, using the soul swap technique that Yuji seemed to have established to have gotten a while ago. Just swap places with Sukuna, I guess. Would he still be brain dead though? That's the only thing. That's the one issue with Infinite Void as a win con that keeps Megami alive. It's the fact that we don't actually know, like, how well the body/soul dynamic works within JJK. So, hypothetically, let's say it works like, I can't even say 7 Deadly Sins because we don't know how it works fully there either. But in terms of, like, how much of Sukuna is actually, like, living off of Megami's biological functions. Like, are they so deeply intertwined that if Yuji were to use Soul Swap, he would kind of just swap with both of them, and then Megami/Sukuna would be in his body, and Yuji would just be in Megami's body. And or if they were to use Infinite Void and, you know, lock down Meguna, would his soul still be active? But since it's Megami's biological body, he would be permanently brain dead? I don't know. That's the only vagueness about it. But in terms of what I believe is a pretty much instant win button that also happens to have the slightest, and I mean the slightest of chance of allowing Megami to still be saved, I think it's that. I legit do think it's that. Opening domain, flooding him with information, but not attacking him while in the domain, just filling him up with so much information that's going to take him time to recover. Notably, the 0.2 second domain won't work well enough. I do think Gojo will have to hold it for a while, mainly because look at the disaster curses. They broke out in, like, what, a few minutes? Like, it really wasn't that long. Like, I know in like 100 something seconds, Gojo took out all the transfigured humans. He had the little interaction with Kenjaku, and then Mahito woke up. And I don't think I need to tell you that Sukuna is a much stronger soul, mind, body, everything than Mahito. So stuff in Sukuna till he bursts. I mean, but no, that's Gojo's son, but it isn't. But it is. Whatever. Don't think of the image of Gojo stuffing Sukuna. Well, I've seen the fan art. People have already thought. But regardless of any of that, that seems like the simplest, cleanest win con. It doesn't even have to be any damage or like real. I say there doesn't have to be any real damage when Megami/Sukuna will be literally brain dead. But still, there doesn't actually have to be too much insanity in terms of more destruction. And considering Malevolent Shrine already happened, it's not like there's much city to save anyway. So you might as well just open domain. But hypothetically, let's say Gojo does not want to open domain. And there's pretty good reason why. One, because let's just say hypothetically he can tell with the 6 eyes, oh yeah, bro really has like 2 seconds of cooldown. If I open domain right now, he may be able to counter domain and then I'm back to square one. And he probably won't let me symbol domain, RCT, RC free myself all over again. So let's say domain is off the table. I'm looking back at Sukuna doing what I thought was eating a hollow purple, like maybe like a high. I was about to call it habanero, but like literally eating it, like scrumdiddlyumptious and just losing an arm. And I thought he tanked hollow purple, but looking at what the red did to him, like looking at straight up what the red did to Sukuna, like tore off half of his face. And this is a red that's like not charged or anything real fancy. Like Gojo leaped in his I mean, am I wrong? Like, here's the thing. I'm not even sure. Like, what's the limit? Because Sukuna's technically 1,000 years old. But ain't Megami like 16? What kind of jokes can I make here? Where's the line drawn? Because technically, I'm not even joking. Gojo did leap in that man's lap. Like, straight up, cuddled right. Okay, enough. Essentially, Gojo launched off a red with basically no charging, no fancy steps, and nothing, and it managed to take off a decent chunk of Sukuna's face and blow him into a shrine hard enough to decently damage him. So what I'm thinking now, in terms of what happened earlier, when we saw Sukuna, quote-unquote, eat a 200% hollow purple, I think bro tried to block it with one hand, saw his hand getting vaporized, and dipped. Like, straight up, dodged the rest of it. Because we know bro was caught lacking in the first place. He was not ready to... he was not ready to catch a Hollow Purple, as I bet very few people are. But with that being the case, it seems like Hollow Purple can actually do some numbers to Sukuna. Sure, was it 200% amped? Yes. But based on the fact that Sukuna took that much damage from red alone, seems legit to me that a convergence of red and blue would probably do some real numbers to him, especially while he's off guard. Just vaporize the whole darn shrine while you have the time. Might as well. So I think that's the next big thing. The big issue with this, though, is that Megami dies. Like, if we go with the idea that, not even forget purple being existence ratio or not, I don't really care about that. It's just a big old blast. Like, there won't be a Megami to save if Sukuna's entire body is reduced to whatever somebody is reduced to after they get hit by Hollow Purple. Notably, we've never actually seen anyone be consumed by a full Hollow Purple. It's usually just body parts. Like, Toji, body parts. Hanami, body parts. Sukuna, body part. So, like, we don't know what happens when you get hit by a full Hollow Purple, but I highly doubt it leaves a body. Did you see Toji's arm anywhere? I didn't. Did you see Sukuna's arm anywhere? I didn't. Did you see Hanami's arm anywhere? I did not. So I do think the big issue with Gojo dropping a purple point blank in Sukuna's face is the fact that Megami really is just done at that point. And I'm not entirely sure Gojo's okay with that. Notably, he did say he's fine with punching Megami in the face because he looks like Toji. But even with the trauma from Toji, I still think he wants to save his adoptive son. But then again, he did smack him in the... Like, what? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't care all too much. Because, like, what if the purple worked? Like, that was a 200% off the za, full sauce, all incantation purple, straight in Sukuna's dome piece. Like, if that had hit properly and not just taken an arm, Sukuna would have... So, honestly, I take back what I said. Unless he just expected Sukuna to face tank it, I think Gojo is perfectly fine with actually just executing Megami. Which is wild to think about. I was one pushing that, Gojo, if anything, if he's going to lose, it's because, like, Megami's going to slip out for a second, or Sukuna's going to switch with... Like, the darkest ending I thought of to this fight was as Gojo's, like, vaporizing him or overwhelming him, Sukuna just grins and suddenly it's Megami there, and Gojo just sees the fear in his son's eyes, and suddenly, as Gojo goes to stop doing whatever he's doing, Sukuna takes back control and, like, I don't know, sneaks him or something. Honestly, with... The only thing is, though, with, like, Malevolent Shrine not even working, I'm not sure exactly what Sukuna has that could actually, just GG Gojo now. I don't think the Flames can do it. I don't think, obviously, Malevolent Shrine couldn't do it. If Malevolent Shrine, the peak of Jujutsu, literally the peak of Jujutsu, a divine technique, and it was just a whole bunch of cleaves and they couldn't even, like, properly tear up Gojo, I don't think if Gojo's caught off guard, he'd even fall to that if that were to happen. So, I don't know. I do think the 10 Shadows are going to have to come in and pull something out. I have no idea what, though. I still have absolutely zero idea how Maharaga is going to interact with Gojo, considering that Sukuna has not had the wheel out. So, Maharaga hasn't adapted to anything. So, Maharaga would have to come out raw. Like, Sukuna would just have to slap his Maharaga meat on the table. Okay, I do it on purpose. I don't even know why I cut myself off. Yeah, Sukuna's gonna slap his mighty Maharaga Mega Meat all over the table and see what it does to Gojo. But I think Gojo can just hollow purple that thing, and bada bing, bada boom, it's done. Because Sukuna hasn't adapted anything yet. He hasn't whipped out the wheel. He hasn't smacked it on his forehead yet, so I have no idea what Sukuna's gonna do in that front. But in terms of, like, if we just want Sukuna gone, if we just want him executed and up out of here, we just drop hollow purple on his dome piece. Like, if it didn't work the first time, second time's got to be the charm. And if not, hit him with a third. Hit him with a fourth. Hit him with a fifth. Like, just keep smack him in the face with it. Who knows what Sukuna's regeneration limit is? If he can even well, he's going to be able to regen. It's not a question of whether or not he's going to be able to regen. But, like, if he gets smacked in his dome piece with a perp, I don't know. I get it. He managed to quote unquote eat in 100% or 200% one, but I think he didn't now, just because of how much damage that red did. And I know the red, people are gonna be like, the red was only a flesh wound. And, like, to be fair, you're right. This, like, burning off of the face is much less drastic than losing an entire arm, but
I don't know, y'all. I can kind of smell it. Something smells fishy, and I think it's Sukuna's durability against the Hollow Purple. So, Hollow Purple to his Dome Piece. That's option number 2. The main losses of this is that there's just no way to save Megami. If Sukuna can't survive it, Megami's not surviving it. So a Hollow Purple straight to Sukuna's Dome Piece saves the verse from Sukuna, doesn't exactly save Megami from Sukuna, though. So, I mean, if we're willing to sack Megami, which Gojo very much seems willing to do, considering he tried to hit him with a 200% Hollow Purple off guard, yeah, I can kind of smell the danger, and thusly, Megami's life may be forfeit. But here's secret option number 3. Maximum. Notably, I want you to realize this. We have not seen Gojo's maximum. We just have no idea what it is. Like, I honestly can't even tell you what it could be. Like, no real clue. Like, I'm trying to think right now. What would I even, like, if I'm Gege, what do I even make his maximum? Like, what technique does he not have access to now? Because it would have to be some evolve. But then again, the maximums kinda, at least out of the ones we've seen, they don't necessarily correlate all to, like, notably, I think we've only seen 2 maximums. Let me double check.
I stand corrected, and in reality, it is actually 3 maximums. We have seen 3 maximums. You want to know why I didn't know the 3rd maximum?
Because it was used by Esso. Wing King. Like, dog, what? Like, that was a I always forget that was actually a maximum. But essentially, my biggest question was, like, I mean, sometimes maximum seems like an extension of the user's original technique. Like, you know, the blood manipulation stuff, really, the rot technique, Maximum Wing King, is just an extension of the blood manipulation that Esso already has. Disaster Flames, Maximum Meteor is kind of just an extension of what Jogo can already do. It's just a really big flaming rock. Like, I know that's kind of downplaying what a meteor is, but, like, Jogo can make burning rocks already. This one just happens to be really, really big. Woohoo. The only one that seems super duper strange and weird and off kilter and has me really wondering about Gojo's maximum is Maximum Uzumaki. How? What? Like, how does combining a whole bunch of evil spirits lead to a gigantic DBZ laser blast? I can't tell you. And considering Gojo through purple kind of already has a gigantic, massive purple DBZ laser blast, I don't know what his maximum's going to be. For the longest time, I thought it would be something stupid or crazy like a black hole. But Yuki, before she got, removed from the plot, yeah, she dropped the black hole. So I don't think Gege's going to reuse that. And thusly, I have no idea what Gojo's maximum would be. I'm assuming he has one. He kind of is legally obligated to at this point. I think it's like the only common Jujutsu thing that's been unconfirmed of his. He has everything else, like except for like domain amplification, but like he can probably just get that DLC too if he really needed to, but he doesn't need to use that on anybody. Domain amplification was really introduced just to counter Infinity, if we're being real with ourselves. But with that being the case, he probably does have a maximum. If Geto had a maximum, he had a maximum. We don't know Yuki's, we don't know Yuta's, but usually I expect Gojo to have a maximum, but I just don't know what it is. But that would be the last thing I say to drop on Sukuna's head. Just do it. I have no idea what it could be, considering, well, you know, that we have no idea what it could be, but it's probably dangerous. If I had to take a guess, it most likely is not something very, very pleasant. So I'd say just hit him in the face with the maximum. If it works like that, we have no clue. But those are the 3 major options in, like, de-escalating order of safety and knowledge. Like, obviously, Domain, in my opinion, is the safest play. Well, not the safest play. I'll be real. Domain is still a risky play just based on the fact that we don't know whether or not Sukuna has, like, a long cooldown time between domains and his technique reactivating. So, Domain's a little bit risky. I'd say it's like the riskiest option here in terms of like, he could just get counter domained on again, and then he's in the same situation he was in 226. But that's a pretty safe option in terms of keeping Megami in one piece. You could put him back together. If he were to get smacked in the face by option number 2, Hollow Purple, all the King's men across all the King's men could not put that boy back together because there'd be no boy to put back together, essentially. So I think Hollow Purple, yeah, it's an option. It's viable and it'll probably work, but it will inevitably lead to the, I would say the ceasing of life, but really the extinguishing the erasure of Megami Fushiguro. So that's the only thing. The likelihood of it happening, we'll talk about that in a second, but the final one, maximum, just because we've covered everything else. We've covered basic Jujutsu. We've used a little bit of their base techniques. Sukuna's the one who's really been like keeping things in his bag, like in the back pocket, but we've seen Cleave, we've seen Dismantle. All we're missing is the flame technique and the 10 shadows. So unless we get a maximum of the shrine technique, I think 10 shadows up next for Sukuna. But for Gojo, we've kind of seen everything except for like teleportation, I guess. But unless he plans to teleport Sukuna to the bottom of the ocean and just see if he drowns, which maybe could work. I don't think that's going to be a viable win con. So honestly, we've seen pretty much everything Gojo has to offer, from domain to purple to red. We haven't seen him use blue. People have argued that the telekinesis he showed off recently is blue. So if you want to say that is the case, then he's already used blue too. He's kind of just played all of his cards already, except for the unknown maximum. So that's the final thing that we could get going in terms of just sheer mystery, but powerful enough to actually take out Sukuna. But let's talk about likelihood. These are nice ideas. These are good plans. If I were Satoru Gojo, or you were Satoru Gojo, and or we could take a controller and shove it up his butt and make him do what we wanted to, yeah, we would immediately spam ult because we have infinite ki. Yeah, sure. Especially while the opponent's knocked down and you have the OTG, might as well just hit him with a level 3. But is this really going to happen? I don't think so. Like, being completely real with you, I don't think so. And there are a couple reasons why. Number one, Gojo vs. Sukuna has only been 4 chapters long. And this is I'm not doubting Gege's writing ability and or Gege's ability to quote unquote break my ankles, considering the man has done it numerous times at this point. But I highly doubt that Yorozu is going to get a fight of equal length to Gojo and Sukuna. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that may be rude and biased of me, but I just don't think it's going to work out that way. And thus, I think the fight's going to go on for like, at a bare minimum, 3 more chapters. Realistically, I kind of expect this to be a 10 chapter affair, considering we haven't even seen any of the 10 shadows yet. And like, notably, we haven't seen even some of the ones we have seen at their full potential, because the only people Sukuna could use them on were people that Megami cared about, and thusly we haven't got to see like any giga-sized 10 shadows. Even the maximum elephant that we saw him drop, wasn't really that big. Nue was bigger than Max Elephant. So obviously you can tell something was off with Sukuna's output during that. So I do legit believe we're going to see Gojo fight some kaiju, and thusly Gojo GGing Sukuna in the next chapter. Not likely at all with any 3 of these options, even with Sukuna being shut down. Number 2, I do just think that Sukuna's gonna cheat. Like I know that sounds crazy, but think about it. Gojo kind of cheated. At least in my opinion, Gojo kind of cheated. Like in this chapter, like the ability to use RCT to restore one's technique, that seems like kind of cheating. It seems a little bit like cheating. And using reversal red inside of a domain, using a technique inside of a domain, smells a little bit like cheating, even though, you know, as a Gojo fan, I have to huff the copium. So I think Sukuna's going to get his grade A cheating in. Because let's be real. Sukuna's low-key been fighting fair. He's been using his own technique. He's been using tech we've already seen from him. He's been pulling off things that, you know, are pretty well established for him. We haven't gotten much of him so far, but from what we have gotten of him, everything's pretty consistent. There's no weird outliers. And Gege did just establish, in this battle of the strong... Well, no, I think it was one of Gege's editors or somebody. I remember hearing someone said, like, a quote of, like, in this battle of the strongest, conventional rules may not apply. Gojo has been breaking some conventional rules. Realistically, Sukuna hasn't. So Sukuna's going to cheat his way out of this. Like not even in the bad way. Like, no, Sukuna fans, take no offense when I say your man's going to cheat out of this. I believe Gojo cheated himself out of a situation. So realistically, Sukuna cheating is kind of just like the law of equivalent exchange at this point. I hope Gojo's watched Full Metal Alchemist, because it's going to come back to haunt him. But that's the second thing. Third thing, I feel like somehow, other people have to factor into this fight in some way, shape, or form. Whether it be Kenjaku, whether it be Uraume, whether it be the JJK High cast, I feel like this fight is not allowed to be a one-on-one forever, and thusly it's going to end as a one-on-one. I think ultimately, one way or another, some sort of jumping is going to occur, whether it be in Gojo's favor or Sukuna's favor, or both at the same time. Somebody's got to get jumped, and if Sukuna loses in the next chapter, he can't get jumped. So, like, I don't know. I don't think so. And those three in combination kind of make me think we're just going to go back to regular fighting next chapter. Like, maybe more fisticuffs, maybe a special scuffle here or there, a technique or two. I don't necessarily think we're going to get anything too crazy next chapter, just because of how the scenario's set up right now. If we were a bit further into the fight, if Sukuna had used one of the 10 Shadows techniques at all, then maybe I could give it more hope for Gojo pulling out an insta-dub here, but I don't know. It seems too soon. We've seen too little, and while I don't believe Sukuna's the final villain, I do think he has way too much build-up and way too much hype. Same for Gojo, to have their fight end in only 4 chapters. Technically 3, but realistically 4. So, those are my thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts, though? Do you think that my hypothetical win cons for Gojo in this very specific scenario at the end of chapter 226 are valid? Do you have your own extra win cons you would give Gojo in the scenario? If you were Satoru Gojo, what would you do in the scenario? Are you going to try to save Megumi? Or are you going to try to get rid of Sukuna in spite of Megumi? Let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. You can for as low as $1 down a month to get the links, exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you guys so much once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.